Hey everyone, this is Chris with T3 Handicapping, and I'm here to bring you the card from Indiana Grand for Wednesday, September 29th, 2021. If you want to follow my picks, you can do so by following me on Twitter at HandicappingT3. If you did so today, you got off to a pretty hot start. We had the first five winners in either the A or the B column. Some of them were A plus as well. And then we did close out the final race as well with an A horse. Had a couple of bumps in the road with races 6 and 7, a seahorse and an off the board. Um, but overall, it was a pretty good day. One thing that I do really like about doing this is going through and actually talking through the races and talking out loud. It really has helped me to be aware of sort of what I'm doing. So today was another day where, like, I was really strong on an opinion, and I got a little bit too cute on trying to keep the tickets super thin and trying to just create value rather than just crushing the wager the way that I should have. And I played too many races, and so it ended up being a not profitable day, despite my best opinion coming through. And as a player, that should be when you're doing your best. And so one of the things that I think is really nice is I have kind of like a daily record of how I'm playing Indiana Grand and what I'm thinking, and then I can go back at the end of the day and rewatch the episode and see if I matched my handicapping with the opinions that I had in the video. And today was a perfect example of a day where I didn't follow my belief hard enough to actually make it a profitable day. So I think this is a really valuable exercise. Hopefully for you as the viewer, able to get some ideas maybe on a track that you don't normally play. But I also hope that you do some of this process as well, because I think you can learn a lot about yourself as a handicapper and as a bettor. And I think a lot of us are better handicappers than we are bettors, and that's a good lesson that I'm always trying to learn and always trying to improve on. So let's go ahead and let's jump into the card for today or tomorrow, I guess, since it's technically the evening here. I'm going to just go ahead and get this guy pulled up to race number one. So, just a reminder of some of our markings here. The purple is the class level, lower equals better. And then we have our pace designation, slow, moderate, and fast. The higher, the better in this case. So, we're looking at race one here to begin. And we've got 6 furlongs allowance, 44,000. And as we go through, you can see we're at an 8. So these are actually pretty decent horses for Indiana Grand. And the pace should be relatively slow. The first horse, Williston Way, 3-1, 87B. Impressed is a 74C. Does like to come from off the pace, which has not been super successful at Indiana Grand of late. So that's something I'm going to keep an eye on and probably downgrade the Seahorse there. Uh, Aggressivity is another S type and a C minus. So that's another one where I'm going to look to probably go in a different direction. My top horse here is Long Weekend. He's got that nice early speed going, and he actually rates out as a 98, which is pretty high, 100% A plus on my curved grading system. Joe Frazier is one who's been pretty productive, but it's kind of weird to see. Coming out of the Brad Cox barn and now coming to Cipriano Contreras, 74, 72 C minus, decent run style, Manny Esquivel in the saddle. So one I would definitely be more inclined to use. Close to the case, 44 not going to use. Charcoal 69 not going to use. And so when all is said and done, it's actually a pretty thin board here. 4, 1, 2, 5, and 3 in the C line. But like I said, some of these C's I probably wouldn't use. I'm probably more likely to just go here, just reduce it down to maybe the 5. So, when I actually go to play, I'll probably play the 4, the 1, and maybe a deep saver on the 5 there. So that's how I'm looking on race one. Race number two, we're going to be 6 furlongs, claiming non-3 lifetime, 6 furlongs on the dirt. So we're going to be a little dirt sprint here. What I think is interesting about a race like this is dirt sprints tend to have very fast paces, and yet our indicators are that this is going to be a very moderate pace for a very low level class. Um, I have a feeling things are going to get a little bit hotter, but I also know that when we start getting up into the 18, 19, 20, and beyond in terms of class levels, it's a lot less likely that horses are going to pass. Not because of anything having to do with the pace scenario, but just having to do with the quality of horses. A lot of times these horses are down in these levels because they just don't like to pass horses. And so that's one thing that I always try and consider here as we're looking. So we'll be looking for those EP or those E types that maybe can sit a little bit closer. So the number one is 82 B minus, very usable. The number two is Miss Helen Beck, 67, no use. Number three, Luna Love, no use at 66, no use on the four at 63. The five, Thirst Trap 44, no use. Joy in the Journey gets the A grade, the A plus grade, a 91. So another very strong use here. Even money on that one. Definitely need to use and probably pretty heavily. Majestic Climb is a no use. And then horse number eight, Where the Money Went, 77C. Um, in my case, yesterday, the answer was to all the other players at Indiana Grand. That's where all my money went. Um, so for this race, I'm going to be really heavily through the six. I will play a little bit through the one and a little bit through the eight. But I'm probably going to go heaviest through here. One of my goals on the Wednesday card is to really try and treat it like an investment. So really hammer into a specific sequence that I like, a set of races I like, play those and then not play anything else. And I think as things are shaping up and as I've had a chance to look through this whole card, I think the early is where I'm going to be looking, keying very heavily through this first race where I said I had the four and the one that I like a lot. Um, and then now I come into the second race where I've got the six and the one. So I can keep the early part. They have an early pick four that starts in race one. I can use that to my advantage. I'm very thin in the first two legs. Now I can start to expand out, maybe use some multi-ticket approaches, which I'm going to need to do because you're going to see the class level for the rest of this card really start to launch. We're going to be some low level claimers in here. So this is a 22. We're getting up into the high numbers there, which means we're dealing with some of the lower level horses. Of course, these are filly non-winners, 16,000. So the pace is supposed to be pretty quick on this, so that should set up for a horse maybe like Evie, the number one, who's an 81 B minus and a definite use, and his Moonlight 96 and an A. Wicked Ecstasy 89 B plus. Now we had talked about not using S types earlier, but now in this race I see a fast pace, and I think I might be able to get one home. You can see, I mean, this horse is definitely an S type based on some of the post positions, but it's interesting to see S8. That's a very unusual markation for a horse. So I'm kind of curious to see how that one ends up running. Pretentious Tiz, 82 B minus. Donna Sue, 80 C plus. The reason that comes out to be a C plus is because it's a rounding issue, so it's 79.7 or zero point 0.8. It's rounding up to an 80, but the grade still checks out as a C plus. You can see here Polyester Bride, 83. So you compare that to the first two favorites that had an overall power rating in the 90s. This horse is not as good as those, and certainly not as strong of an opinion for me. That is my top selection in the race, though. Miss Sacha Mo, 80 C plus. Again, a rounding issue there. Quite whimsical, 60, and a no play. So as we get into the third leg here of the pick four, which I'm definitely going to be playing, you can see I'm pretty well spread. I'm honestly probably going to just hit the all button or a weighted all. So, I'm pretty short in the first two legs, a 2x2. So as I'm looking at a pick four strategy, I might go say maybe a dollar or a dollar 50 through a a um, and then the A horses here. So if my top selections win races one, two, and three, I'm into it for $2, $3, something like that. But it's only going to cost me like $6 total as of right now. We haven't gotten to leg four yet. But then I can use the 50-cent one to cover some of those BB, maybe BC combinations here. So I'm just kind of weighting those tickets. I definitely think that the early pick four is a place where I can get some value. I'm looking here at the six, who is 3-1. That's not a great price, but Anna's Moonlight is 8-1. So I do have a chance to make some cash there, I think. Let's see how we're going to wrap up this pick for 28. So yikes, we have maiden claimers 5,000. They're fillies, they're state breds. This looks like a disaster. Now, what I think is really interesting is we're going 5.5 furlongs. So this is a race that should really, really benefit somebody who's speedy. Um, and you can see that our pace number comes out to be a 9, which means this thing is going to be walking the dog slow. I am looking for a horse that's going to be forwardly placed that can win, because I just don't think these horses have the ability to pass. If I look here, I can see that in this horse's career, this horse has gone, and this is one thing that I do kind of like to mark sometimes, especially in these races. This horse has gone backwards 3 in its career. Just looking at the stretch call to the final call, this horse doesn't like to pass. So even though it's an 80B minus, I'm going to be very hesitant to use this horse. This horse comes out 86 and 100, so not very good. But as I'm looking here down below. This is a horse that's never passed a horse in the stretch run. It's interesting now, dropping in class, so that's helpful, but has never passed a horse. So I'm going to use that one, but I'm going to use it with trepidation. 76C on Trip Charge. This one has passed a horse, kind of. Now, it lost lengths, so it's hard to know in that situation. Did the horse pass tiring rivals, or did the horse just fall back at a slower pace? And based on the fact that it says pressed in the 3 path and then faded in the stretch, I'm guessing that that's probably not all that great of um, a support for this one. Here's a horse that's never passed anybody and has not raced in more than 2 years. If this one beats me, it beats me. But that's a long time to be off for a horse to come back and just be fresh all of the sudden. We're in at this low level as a 4-year-old. It just seems like a big ask for me. This horse, again, we're looking here to the stretch run. Now, here we actually have making up both ground and position. That's something that to me jumps off the page, and that's a horse that I definitely want to make sure that I'm including on my ticket. Because in a field where nobody really wants to win, I'm going to take the one who has proven that they can get by horses, right? You have this horse here who rates out as a 53X. There's nothing to suggest that this first time starter is going to really pop there. This one is an 85B. I can see that they passed a horse, but it was done somewhat modestly there. Not a great number. I'm just going to go ahead and remove that real quick. Okay, so this one I'm actually starting to get some really interesting numbers. I've got 5 to 4, 8 to 6. So twice in the career, 3 times in the career, this horse has been able to pass. And every time it has, it's had his be aboard. It is dropping in class. So this is one that rates out as an 85B, but this is another one that I really want to make sure that I'm using, especially at this 20-to-1 line. If I'm anywhere close to that, that's a steal. Coming into this one here, we'll just take a look, 79C plus. As I'm looking through the form line, slight improvement in position, but lost ground there. Improved position, lost ground. Improved position, gained ground. But now we're going back to July, which is a little concerning. So this is one where you can definitely see why 7-2 makes sense, but I've got it as 79C plus, and I don't see enough there to really take a leap of faith. This is another one. You've got a big jump in the second career race, so I might take a chance with that one. So here you can see that the grades came out 2, 7, 1, 8, 3, and then 4, 5 have that little arc over the top indicating that they scored out the exact same on my formula. But one of the things that I like to do, especially in this situation, if I'm going to close out this leg and I'm going to be really narrow in the first 2, I'm going to come in and I'm going to mark those horses. So 3, maybe. I might upgrade 3 a little bit, but I want 5, 7, and 9 to be included. So I'm going to take the 7, and I'm going to move that one up here. I'm going to move the 5 up here as well. And I'm also going to make the 9 an A selection. So all in all, I'm going to kind of make it 5, 7, 9, and 2 with 1 with basically 384. And so that's how I'm going to end up actually scoring this out. Again, I'm coming home to this leg. I'm going to go 2 by 2, and then I'm going to be a little bit more full. I've got, 5 horses I think in there, but I'm probably in that last race going to play maybe my top 4, maybe top 5 selections. I don't know. It's hard to say. That gets me to $20. Even if I played my top 4 selections that I just moved up there, we're talking about $80 for a pick 4, um, which isn't horrible. Um, and I'll probably play those A opinions a little bit stronger, hopefully. But I'm definitely going to be focused in on this sequence. I do think there's a possibility to maybe roll some pick threes in there as well to make up some of the value. So I don't have to use all. I can use maybe like my lone A in race 2, and then play that into my B's and C's in race 3, and then into my ABs in race 4, something like that, just to kind of cover up underneath the pick 4 where I may have lost some play. So as I mentioned, you're going to see as we start to move through this card, a lot of lightly raced horses, a lot of really low class levels running on the card today. Philly State Bred Maiden Special Weight, 21 is the class level, so not great runners. And then you've got 13, so a relatively slow pace. We do have some lighter racing here, so some of them just haven't had a chance to really establish a run style yet, which is part of it. But number 1, 77C, number 2, Mama Lama Kamala is an 82 in the power rating, 100% A plus. I'm a little concerned about this run style coming from behind. That just has not been super effective. So Twisted Garter 54, not going to use. Amazingness 87B, Beyond Justice 65X, Torte 72C minus. Um, Farm Safety, I've got 44X. This is the one I actually like a lot here. Geo's Baby Girl. Now we're kind of dealing with the same issue, but I like the fact that this horse has been like 3.5, and didn't lose too much ground, and that's with Angel Rodriguez. So that to me says maybe we're starting to figure some things out. We've run a consistent speed figure that should be very competitive here, 52X. And then here I have another one, and this is actually a very interesting horse to me. Fashion Diva is tied for my top rated horse. Now the figures are a little bit light. I don't love to see that, but this is a good connection to have here. Marcelina Pedroza, you've got Jeff Greenhill as the trainer. And you have a horse that ran fairly evenly. Now, I know at the end, the horse just completely melted down and fell from, 3.5 lengths all the way back to 12 lengths. But at the same time, you've got a horse that's got a little bit of speed in a race that's otherwise kind of lacking. When we look at horses with established form, we just don't really have it here. So that's something to think about. Now, we are going a mile. This horse has a mile under its belt on a sloppy track. Other than that, you have the 3 that has a mile. You have the 4 that has a mile. Um, 2 has a mile. So a fair number of them have gotten the chance to stretch out. But I really like the 10 as a possibility to just get on the front end and take them. And I'm realizing now that I have not yet put in my numbers here, so I've got to go back and do that real quick. We're going to go A, B, and C. So as we went back and looked here, I've got A grades on 2. I'm a little hesitant on that one. And 10, 2, 10, and 8. So I'm going to go 2 and 10 and 8. And those 2 are linked. My B letter grades here come on the 4. That's it. So again, I mean, not a ton of selections in the top. I'm just not sure I can really trust these letter grades quite as much as I would with some of the others. I'm not going to worry about order here. 1, 6. Got 1, 6 here in the C. So, I've got 6 horses I can use. I feel pretty confident that the winner is going to come from the 2, 8, 10. I feel like that's going to be good enough to cover me, and um, if I lose there, I might lose to one of these. I may come back and like wheel the 2, 8, 10 under the 1, 4, 6, and maybe some exactas and tries and things like that. But um, my goal for tomorrow, as I mentioned, is to really zero in on a sequence. My goal is to zero in on the early pick four. I think I can really hit that one for an affordable ticket. Um, I'm going to try and really hammer that one, and then I'm going to try and just sit and watch the rest of the day. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, I'm not playing by now. But again, 21. So we're talking about a really low level of horse here. We're talking about a 15. So it looks like it's going to be slow again. Um, but let's take a look at what we've got. So 43 not using, 50 not using, 51 not using, 58 not using, 69 not using, 44 not using. And then we get to my best bet of the day. So many lightly raced horses. My best bet of the day yesterday was in a maiden race, a horse that was 0 for 14. Now he's 1 for 15, and beat the field fairly easily. I'm going to take my chances in another maiden race with the 3-1 shot here. I like the early speed. The horse writes out as a 101 overall, so that's the top rated horse on the entire race card. I really like the 7 here. The 8 is a no use. The 9 is a C plus. The 10 is a B minus. And then Liza's Ready is interesting. The only reason that I really pointed out Liza's Ready is you've got Wesley Ward shipping into Indiana Grand, which is just not typical. Now, Wesley's one of those guys I have a hard time getting a read on. I know he's always like ready to go for a lot of the Kentucky stuff. I'm just kind of questioning why he's sending horses here to Indiana. Clearly, his best string is in Kentucky. Now, this doesn't seem like a typical Wesley Ward spot, and that makes me nervous. Is it that he needs the horse to come in? He knows this is just not one of his more talented runners, so he's just going to bring it in here and let it just beat up on inferior opponents? Or is it a situation where this horse really isn't that good, and so he's just shipping it anywhere where, like, maybe he can even get somewhat of a piece? I don't know. Like, I really struggle with it. And we did see the 11 post have some success on the card yesterday. So I can't even completely rule it out based on that. But I don't know. I think I'm going to kind of stay away from it. I think I'm going to go 7, 10, 9, and I'm just going to try and be against Wesley Ward. I know the name's going to take money in the pools. I don't know. I just don't feel like this is one that I want to attack. I mean, if Wesley had a good 2-year-old, we would have seen it by now because it would have been on the road to bigger and better things. So I'm out for this one. And if it wins, it wins. Again, I'm probably just playing with funny money at this point. Hopefully, I am. Hopefully, I've crushed it, and I'm setting up the retirement accounts and all that jazz. So, race number 7, we're going to go 5.5 furlongs. So we got another sprint. We're going to come up the class ladder a little bit to a 17. We've got a moderate pace, which is good to see for state bred main special weights. 27 not using, 27 not using the 2, 60 not using the 3, 25 not using the 4. So I'm not using a lot of the inside runners. The 5 is a 29. The 6 at 6 to 5, Marcelina Pedroza, 98, A plus, definitely one I want to be using. Faithful Notion, 94, another A. So I'm going to go 6, 7. I've got Big Hat No Cows. That one's a 78 C plus. And then I'm not using the number 9, who gets a 60 grade. Justice the Beast is an early runner, 6 to 1, second time starter. The trainer is 23% second time out, 22% with 2-year-olds. This is a trainer who knows how to get them ready. I got 100% A plus. I definitely want to be using the 10 very heavily. Number 11, 37, not going to use. Shad, Travel Injustice, 78 C plus. 13, Hobnobbin General, 66, and 14, Copper Harbor, 85 and a B. This is a race with 2 also eligibles, so once scratches come out, these numbers are going to shift around a little bit, and maybe could even further emphasize my top selection, or could even things out a little bit, just depending on where they go. So when all is said and done, it's going to be 10, 6, 7, 14, and then 8 and 12. In all honesty, I'm going to be looking pretty heavily through just these A horses if I'm still playing at this point. Um, my guess is the 14 is going to probably end up scratching out. And then do I really want to take that big jump down into the C? I don't think so. Race number 8, we're going to jump back on the turf, going a mile, maiden special weight. So again, we're seeing a common theme. Now, these maiden special weights are unrestricted, so they actually get a class bump because they don't have any restrictions on them. So that's why you can see these ones are 13, whereas like the previous ones, I think were 18 or 17 or something along those lines. So again, a moderate pace. Now you do have lightly raced horses, so some of that is just, again, we don't have the data on some of them. 24X, 57X, 29X. So we're not using 1, 2, or 3. 4 is a 58X, 5 is a 30X. So we're not using anybody until we get to Kid Shalene, 92 A minus. I'm a little concerned that this horse is a P type. So it likes to sit mid pack and come. In particular, I always like to look at like their best runs. This race, they got close. They got close. Um, these are for some top trainers. This is probably the race you need to look at if you think this horse has a chance. I guess you could add this one in here as well, right? These are races where the horse was able to sit close and still finished well. I think if you look at those races, you can look at this horse and say, yeah, legitimately and with a chance. Tropical Tornado, 82 B minus. This one has a little bit more forward run style. Top Selection, Dyna Blue, 83, 100%. Okay. You've got a horse that's trending up in the right direction, has been close. Again, similar. I like to see that. Okay. Number 9, 39X, 81B on the 10 for Santos Sanger. Mike Maker, 17% at Indiana Grand. That's something that I really like to see. I also, and this is something I learned during the Derby Trail, is this Kentucky Downs form is really interesting. Now we can see this horse was ridden by Tyler Gaffleone, was the favorite at Kentucky Downs in a maiden claimer. Horses come out of Kentucky Downs and they seem to run a better race the next out. So do not leave the number 10 off your ticket. Definitely make sure the 10 is included somewhere because that Kentucky Downs form has been really productive. The same could be said about February Sun. Now, the thing that concerns me a little bit about February Sun is the fact that the horse sits back. Now, you could say, well, here he was only back 2 at the beginning and still finished up pretty well. So maybe they're going to flash a little more speed today and that'll be good for him. Speed is not as critical here because we are on turf, so you get that late running stuff. 24 not using the 12. 13, 14 are both also eligible. The 13 for main track only. I think that horse is scratching out. I don't think there's any chance that we're going to come off the turf tomorrow. Things look beautiful. And then 14 Feral Cat. So not going to use there. So now we come down here. We've got our A's 8, 6, and then 7, 10, 11. But again, subject to move some of those up, especially the ones coming out of Kentucky Downs, which I always like to elevate. Our last thoroughbred race of the night, or of the day, I should say, will be race number 9, 6 furlongs, Philly State Bred Allowance. So we're kind of bookending. We started, I think, with an 8 class, and we're coming back with a 10, and we jumped up into the 20s for a good portion of the card in between. This race is scheduled to be real fast, 21. So just quick running through the final leg here. You've got Just Simple Girl, 85B. You've got Ventana Donna, 63X. Thunderstruck, 98A plus, early run style. Everything looks good there. Royals Girl, 95A. Juju Bug, 44X. Tisway Forever, 71C. Incredible Justice, 88B plus. Top Selection, Tapping Into Summer, 3-1. Deshaun Parker, Randy Klopp, 84 overall. I love this trainer. Coming second off. Now it says he's only 11% in 18 attempts, so that's not great. That's not what I would have thought. Just intuitively, I would have thought in my head that this horse was significantly better than that, or this trainer was significantly better than that coming off of this. But definitely one I'm going to be using very strongly. Smooth Justice, 70 C minus. And that gets us to our final letter grades here, which is that we have the A's 1, 3, and 4. We have the B's as the 7 and the 1, and the C's as the 6 and the 9. So as I'm going through this and as I'm thinking about the mistakes that I made on Tuesday's card and how I can remedy those for Wednesday's card, I know going in, Wednesdays are typically not a day that I do well at Indiana Grand. A lot of times it has to do with the fact that there are more maiden races, it seems like, on Wednesdays. And so I think I'm going to look to refine my strategy. And instead of trying to hit doubles and pick threes and pick fours and pick fives, I'm going to really hone in on the early pick four. And then outside of that, I'm going to just try and stay inner wagers. So I'm going to try and put together some exactas and some tries using my top selections, and hope that I can be a little bit more profitable and actually put together a better bankroll management, but also a more cogent strategy that's going to allow me to take advantage of what's on the page before me. These maiden claiming races or these maiden races are tough because you can hit one and you can have a great opinion in one and miss the next. And so I'm going to try and capitalize on my intro race opinions, rather than trying to spread across multiple legs, because I think there's going to be a lot of variability tomorrow, especially underneath an exotic. So I think you can make some money there. Uh, as I've mentioned in the last several videos, if you do want to purchase these picks, you can. Obviously, I will post them on Twitter at Handicapping T3. You can take a look at my A pluses, my A's, and my B's. There are C's also. That get updated with scratches. If you purchase the tip sheet or the worksheet, you will get those. You'll get the full letter grades for all the horses, but you will also get specific numerical values for every single horse in the race, for every single category, that they have data to use. You will also get their ranking in each of those categories. You'll get power scores. You'll get how many negative handicapping features they have. So you can get all that for $2 if you're playing Indiana Grand. And in that sheet will also be the T3 grids that I featured in some of my earlier videos, which can be great for putting together those exactas and tries. That's $2. You can reach out to me via t3handicapping@gmail.com. Just let me know you want the Indiana Grand card. I'll get you my Venmo or PayPal information, and we can do the exchange. Now, if you are not playing Indiana Grand on Wednesday, you want to play somewhere else, feel free to reach out to me as well at t3handicapping@gmail.com. And just let me know what track you're playing. And if you want me to put together a custom report for you, I can do that. As I mentioned in my previous videos, that one is $10 because I do have to build a track profile in order for it to run. And so for the extra legwork that will take, I just ask for a little bit more money for my time. So that one's $10 if you want it, but I can do it for just about any track in North America. And you will have something that's proprietary, something that nobody else has, and maybe can give you an edge on on the other players, and hopefully take their money. So with that, you can always check back to @handicapping T3 on Twitter and see the updated picks once scratches come out tomorrow. Otherwise, good luck at Indiana Grand on Wednesday, September 29th.